Welcome back to The Explainer. So today we're unpacking a truly fascinating ancient document. When we think of the great Indian epic, the Mahabharata, we usually picture these massive, earth-shattering battles, right? Divine weapons, complex family feuds, the whole shebang. But what if I told you that one of the absolute most compelling parts of this entire epic isn't a battle at all? It's actually a deep, intense psychological confession. We're going to look at an ancient text that reads basically like the diary of a deeply bitter rival. We're stepping right into the mind of Duryodhana. He's a king who just got back from visiting his cousin and rival, King Yudhishthira. And let me tell you, what he saw there completely broke him.
Okay, let's dive into this because this quote right here sets the stakes for everything we're about to explore. Duryodhana is speaking to his father, and he literally says, "Beholding the kings of the earth to present unto the foes such excellent and valuable presents, I wished for death out of grief." I mean, just pause and think about that for a second. He didn't lose a war. He didn't lose his kingdom. He literally just looked at his rival's front yard, saw the staggering receipts of tribute pouring in, and the envy was so physically painful he actually wished he was dead. To understand why a king would react this way, we've got to look at exactly what he saw. Moving into Section 1, the Gates of Envy.
Now, as we go through these records of tribute, I want you to keep one absolutely crucial thing in mind. We are looking at King Yudhishthira's immense wealth entirely through the unreliable, highly envious eyes of Duryodhana. Every single chest of gold, every exotic animal, every cheering crowd, it's all being filtered through this lens of pure jealousy. And honestly, that makes the text not just an accounting ledger, but a masterpiece of psychological torture. According to the source, the gathering outside the palace was simply unprecedented. It wasn't just a few local lords paying their respects. Duryodhana reports seeing vanquished kings, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and serving Sudras. He even notes that mlichas, these were foreigners or outsiders to traditional Vedic culture, came out of sheer love and respect for Yudhishthira. So you have all orders of men, from the highest elite to the lowest classes, traveling from diverse lands across the known geography, gathering in one place. The habitation literally became the epitome of the world, like a microcosm of the entire earth just bowing at one man's doorstep.
Which brings us to Section 2, Mountains of Ancient Wealth.
So it wasn't just the people that were overwhelming, right? It was the geography they represented. We're talking about a staggering variety of tributes brought from the most remote corners of the ancient world. From the harsh, freezing slopes of the Himalayas all the way down to the warm seacoasts, it was like every environment on Earth was just coughing up its most precious resources for this one event. And out of all the treasures listed, this next one is perhaps the most wildly fascinating mythological detail in the whole source. Duryodhana describes mountain tribes like the Kashas and Pardas, bringing something called pipilika. What is that, you ask? Well, it's gold, measured in massive jars, that was famously raised from underneath the earth by ants. Yup, ant gold. Now, whether this refers to actual gold dust mining marmots of the Himalayas, as some historians suggest, or if it's just pure myth, the point Duryodhana is making is crystal clear. Yudhishthira isn't just getting standard taxes. No way. He's getting magical, legendary treasures pulled from the very dirt by nature itself.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer diversity of exotic tributes those remote tribes and distant kings brought in. Look under precious materials. We're talking seaborne gems like lapis lazuli and heaps of pearls brought by the kings of Sinhala. Then you have endless loads of fragrant sandal juice, sweet honey from Himalayan flowers, and precious black aloe wood. And the fauna? Oh man, it's basically an ancient royal zoo. We have these massive elephants, dark as rocks and constantly musty, which, by the way, is a sign of prime vigor, and horses with coats the exact color of a mango leaf. The sensory overload of sights and smells at these gates must have been completely dizzying.
And the gifts from specific named rulers, absurdly extravagant. I mean, these aren't just polite housewarming presents. Chitraratha, the king of the Gandharvas and a literal friend of the gods, casually drops off 400 horses gifted with the speed of the wind. Tamvuru, another celestial being, gives 100 of those incredible mango leaf-colored horses, decked entirely in gold. King Virata brings 2,000 elephants, all covered in gold defensive armor. And another king, Yajnasena, essentially hands over his entire kingdom, along with 14,000 serving girls and 10,000 serving men. It's just an unrelenting, overwhelming influx of riches, and Duryodhana is forced to just stand there and watch it all unfold.
All right, let's look at Section 3, the price of admission.
See, it wasn't just the sheer volume of wealth that broke Duryodhana's spirit. It was the incredible power dynamics happening right there at the gates. Get this, bringing a fortune to King Yudhishthira didn't even guarantee you the right to walk through the front door. The psychological humiliation was built into the very process of paying tribute. Notice the contrast here. You have phenomenally wealthy kings traveling massive distances, like the kings of Chola and Pandya, bringing numberless jars of gold, fragrant sandal juice, brilliant gems, only to be refused entry. The gatekeepers literally told them that if they could wait around and bring good tribute, they might get in. Can you even imagine that kind of ego blow? Meanwhile, on the flip side, the Panchalas and Vrishnis stroll right on in, completely exempt from paying any tribute at all. Why? Well, the Panchalas were related by marriage, and the Vrishnis were just good friends. Yudhishthira is so unimaginably powerful that he can turn away absolute fortunes and just let his buddies in for free.
But amidst all these heavy numbers and transactional relationships, the text actually provides this beautiful, soft emotional anchor. Vasudeva, who most of us know as Krishna, belongs to that exempt Vrishni race. But just to enhance the dignity of his dear friend Arjuna, Krishna freely gives 14,000 excellent elephants anyway. Duryodhana observes this and notes the profound, life-sacrificing bond between them. He states that Krishna would abandon heaven itself for Arjuna, and Arjuna would sacrifice his life for Krishna. For Duryodhana, who's a man totally consumed by bitter rivalry and fragile alliances, seeing this unbreakable, unconditional love must have stung just as much as seeing all that gold.
Let's move to section 4, an unimaginable scale. So now we shift our focus from the gates to the inside of the palace, transitioning into the daily operations of Yudhishthira's empire. If you thought the tribute was wild, just wait until you see the logistics of keeping this household running. Prepare yourself for an onslaught of rapidly escalating figures because the math is about to basically break reality. Duryodhana tells his father that there are 100,000 billions, yes, that is 100 trillion, mounted elephants and cavalry, plus 100 million chariots. Now, historically and physically, that number is impossible, but remember our lens, and this brilliantly illustrates what happens when we look through the jealous eye. This awe-inspiring, completely hyperbolic military scale isn't a literal census. It's exactly what an insecure rival sees when he looks at an army he knows he absolutely cannot defeat. To Duryodhana's terrified mind, the horizon is simply endless with Yudhishthira's military might. And the scale of domestic life is just as dizzying. Duryodhana notes that there are 88,000 Snataka Brahmanas. These are holy scholars leading domestic lives who are entirely supported by Yudhishthira. And to keep them gratified so they'll pray for the destruction of Yudhishthira's foes, each one of these 88,000 men is given 30 serving girls. I mean, the sheer cost and infrastructure required to maintain this single demographic within the kingdom is practically the budget of a modern-day city, and it's completely covered by the king's endless treasury. Oh, and then there are the ascetics. We're talking about 10,000 holy men who have supposedly drawn up their vital seed, completely renounced the material world, and embraced full austerity. Yet, here in Yudhishthira's palace, they're eating their daily meals exclusively off golden plates. It really highlights the absurd, inescapable luxury of the environment. Even the guys who have actively sworn off worldly wealth are forced to dine on solid gold, just because apparently standard plates don't even exist in this palace. So how does an operation of this massive magnitude not just collapse into total chaos? Well, the text credits Queen Yajnasena, who is also known as Draupadi. Duryodhana observes that at one place raw provisions are being measured, at another they're being cooked, and at another distributed. And overseeing the whole operation is the queen. She actually refuses to eat her own daily meal until she has personally verified that every single person has been fed. And the text goes out of its way to specifically note that this includes not just the powerful kings, but the deformed and the dwarfs too. It's just a massive, flawlessly executed logistical feat of both compassion and administration. Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, the breaking point. We are coming right back to Duryodhana's fragile psychological state. Think about it. He has walked past the legendary ant gold, the mango-colored horses, the super-rich kings begging to pay taxes, and those 100 trillion phantom soldiers. He has witnessed this uninterrupted, flawless display of dominance, wealth, and perfectly functional government. And this was the final, crushing blow to Duryodhana's ego. He confesses, "I beheld not a single one in the mansion of Yudhishthira that had not food and drink and ornaments." He literally couldn't find a single crack in the armor. No starving beggar, no disgruntled servant, not even a misplaced chariot. The notes of festivity were just ringing out everywhere. It was absolute universal perfection. For a guy desperately looking for a reason to feel superior, finding a world where everyone is happy, fed, and dripping in jewels, that is the ultimate defeat. Ultimately, it wasn't the weapons that defeated him that day, it was the sheer perfection of his rival's success. Which leaves us with this final thought for today's explainer. We've explored the unimaginable wealth of an ancient empire, sure, but the real core of this source isn't actually about gold or elephants. It's about the destructive nature of envy. Duryodhana had a kingdom of his own, immense privilege, and royal status. But because he constantly measured his own worth against Yudhishthira's success, his own life became utterly worthless to him. So, the question we really have to ask ourselves is, if comparing our lot to others could make a powerful ancient king literally wish for death, how much does the jealous eye cost us in our own lives today, especially when we're endlessly scrolling through the curated successes of others? Definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep questioning what you see.